I'm Joan Cartan-Hansen. Thank you for joining us for this Dialogue Web Extra. We're talking about the roadblocks to higher education and some of the challenges and try to removing some of those roadblocks. Let's go to our caller on the line. We have Jack in Middale. Jack.
Yes, thank you for taking my call.
You bet. Go ahead.
My concern is I sit here and I watch all the advertising for the pay for education companies such as Phoenix and Carrington College, and I see all this money is being spent on this, and I'm wondering, and they're arranging for kids to come in, I assume, and come in, and they're arranging for their student loans, and I'm just wondering if this is a scam, if they're getting a lot of kids in, and a large percentage are dropping and then stuck with these college loans. That was what I was hoping they would discuss.
Well, let's talk about that. I know the federal government is doing some investigation in that area, not of necessarily the schools you mentioned, but in general of that process. So I'm going to put you on hold so you can hear it.
If I could, I'll take that. It is a big concern. The federal government is getting involved because there are a lot of online others that are trying to take advantage of the financing arrangements. They're very good at arranging financing, much higher cost than public schooling. That's not to say all of them are bad. There are some that are actually quite good and they fill a very necessary role. But anybody who's looking at, first thing they need to do is go find out what level of accreditation do they have, and where that accreditation came from. They need to find out the transferability of credits into other aspects of the education system. Like a lot of them will say, well, we'll get your general education out of the way for you, and then you can go on to a public school or whatever. You need to go through and actually verify that those credits are usable, that they're not just paper. There are good, there are bad. Right now there's a lot of emphasis on the bad, but I think with a little bit of research, you can find out which ones will work and which ones won't.
Is this the for-profit schools? Is that something you talk to your students about?
It comes up all the time, and I really try and encourage my students. That's where the research comes in, and encourage them not to make an emotional decision. Get the facts, compare costs, compare a degree, a medical assisting degree at CWI versus a medical assisting degree at another school for profit, and look at the cost and make sure you know what you're getting into if you choose to go that route. Don't go into it blindly.
It's really hard for a parent to tell their child, you know, I can afford it at CWI, but I know you really want to go to this profit school, actually any public school. It's hard for a parent to say no because you're just you feel like you're limiting your child's opportunities. How do you help parents walk through that process of figuring out what they can afford, what they can't afford, helping the students so that move it from the emotional to the rational, I guess.
Most of the for-profit problems are coming not with the students coming right out of high school. It's people who are trying to go back and improve their educational status, and they're being promised more flexibility, financing sources, things like that. So I don't know if it affects the high school student as much as people a little bit further along the path.
Well, and I would ask students to ask any college, what's your graduation rate? And especially with the for-profit colleges, what's the student debt? Like, what is the total student debt that students are leaving with? How many students are leaving before? At what spot in a program are they leaving? Are they leaving after the first year when they're already, tens of thousands of dollars in debt? And just really examining that at any school, applying at a number and looking at the aid packet that those schools can give you. Sometimes a more expensive school might be able to give you a better aid packet than a less expensive school. So just examine every option, public, private, for-profit.
The information's available.
Yeah.
If they really get past the sales pitch, they can find out, like I said, differentiate between the good and the bad.
Well, let's talk a little bit about is college worth it? The Pew Center, and I did get these graphics. We didn't get them in the program, so let's talk about them. The Pew Center calls it the big payoff. So what do you really get by going to college? So if you, across a lifetime, a typical college graduate will earn about $1.4 million. A typical high school graduate will earn about $777,000. So that's a net gain for the college graduate of about $650,000. Now, out of that number, you have to back out some costs. That you lose money obviously, since you're not working those years that you're in school, and then you also lose money for obviously what you paid for college. The Pew put $6,000 as that out-of-pocket college cost. I think that's probably a little low, but maybe for my daughter and my son, hopefully we can work that out. But the net payoff in the end run for a college graduate, you end up earning about $500,000 more over the course of your college career. That's for your basic undergraduate degree. It changes, of course, as you go on into graduate school. They found that some graduate degrees are worth more than other graduate degrees. A master's in humanities may get you the job, but you probably won't get paid that much more than you would with an undergraduate degree. And so you have to make those hard economic decisions.
It's easy to see the raw numbers that it pays for itself, but I think there's even other costs that people don't consider. The lower paying jobs usually have lesser benefits.
Right.
That's not factored in that. Most of the time they're more physically demanding, so as you get up to where, old person like I am, it's tough to do it. It was interesting, just today I was with one of our masons. I do construction, and we were just joking around, and he said something about going back to school. Well, this is a person, and he's a very talented mason, and he does metal work on the side, artistic work. He's a great person. He's going to leave it all and go back into nursing. And he says, I can't be doing this 20 years from now. And he's right. And he has the ability to go back and do that. I hate to see him leave his profession as a mason because he is so good, but he's making a career choice because of the physical aspects and other things that he's trying to get out of life. So the numbers are just clear cut. It's so much better to get more education. And there are a lot of other factors. I wish people would pay attention to that.
And and not only people in general, but how do we get policymakers to support that? Is that I guess you get to do that more than my other two guests.
Well, I don't think you'll get any argument from policymakers. What we've got is a situation where we have a highly conservative state, and our nation, I think, is converting to being a more conservative nation because they don't like the idea of debt. So we're going to go through some transitions. In my mind, the only way to do it is to affect the cost of education, not the revenue tax dollars. We are never going to be able to keep up with tax dollars with the demand.
And I would always encourage anyone who has, come from the lower income quartile and gone to college and been successful to tell their story, tell their congressmen, tell their senators, tell the legislature, this is what I was able to do, and this is where I got, and now I'm doing what I want to and helping my community and helping my family and, sharing those stories with young people so that they can see the value in it.
In just a couple minutes left, I did have a number of Facebook questions that asked about if we need to increase the quality of our K through 12 system in order to increase the number of kids who go on to college, that we need to, especially in the sciences, make sure our science teachers are highly qualified, and we already have highly qualified under No Child Left Behind, but have those special endorsements that we need to make a greater effort. Is that an area, is this a problem that really starts at K and not 10?
They can show that it starts pre-K.
Unfortunately, those early childhood education careers don't get paid very much.
They don't, and it's on your list.
On my list on the bottom page, yeah.
No, it's all the way through. So when you were talking about down to 5th and 6th graders and trying to get them, it is actually necessary at that point to get people to see that. Do we need to change the K through 12 system? There's a lot of theories on what works and what doesn't work, class sizes, things like that. In general, Idaho, we're getting a great value because we really put very little into K through 12.
We're 50 out of 51.
49. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, yes. Put very little in, so we get a great result. But is it getting us where we need to be, and can we make changes? I'm curious to see what happens with some of the things that just happened with education reform and what comes out of that. I certainly don't have the crystal ball to understand where we're going, but we have issues to be resolved, and we broke the logjam, but we didn't resolve the issues.
Well, and one of those issues might be also to make sure that the Idaho high school core is aligned with what the colleges are asking students to come in with.
Right.
And making sure, I know there's a number of programs at the universities around the state trying to better prepare math and science teachers, better prepare innovative curriculum, but just making sure that the students are all prepared when they enter, whether it's community college.
There is some excellent progress being made in that Common Core that you'll hear more of it as time goes by, but they are reorienting the core, and it's a voluntary participation by states, and I think we're well in excess of 40 states have signed on to a new direction for determining what that core should be, so it'll become more meaningful.
But there was no funding behind helping school districts realign their Common Core standards, which was an issue when the legislature adopted it. But nevertheless, they're trying to do it.
And there's some good new programs we've got coming to Boise High, AVID, which tries to
Right.
capture some of those students who probably have the skills but don't have the push to try a hard course, challenge yourself,
Yeah.
and get to college. So again, I think it's getting that culture to where they're going to say, okay, you can do this, you can try it.
Well, I'm afraid we have run out of time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Court, Sue, Ken, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us for this Dialogue Web Extra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks.